Picture this scene from every pirate movie you've ever watched. Captain Jack Sparrow raises a bottle of rum high above his head, the amber liquid catching the Caribbean sunlight as his crew cheers around him. The camera lingers on the crystalline rum as it pours into ornate goblets, while pirates toast their latest victory with broad grins and hearty laughter. The bottle gleams like liquid gold, and the scene suggests that rum is simply the drink of choice for these maritime rebels, a symbol of their carefree, rebellious lifestyle. But here's the question that will change everything you thought you knew about pirates. When you think of pirates, what immediately comes to mind? Rum, right? That iconic amber spirit that seems inseparable from tricorn hats, eye patches, and treasure chests. But why did this particular drink become so fundamentally intertwined with pirate culture that it is more recognizable than their weapons, their ships, or even their gold? What made rum so essential that pirates would literally fight wars over it, kill for it, and in some cases, value it more highly than precious metals? The answer isn't what Hollywood would have you believe. This is Untold's story about pirates choosing rum because they enjoyed getting drunk, though they certainly did that too. This is a story about survival, economics, medicine, and the harsh realities of life at sea during the Golden Age of Piracy. Rum wasn't just a beverage for pirates. It was medicine, currency, social glue, preservation agent, and sometimes the only thing standing between a crew and death from disease or dehydration. Today, we're diving deep into the real relationship between pirates and rum. And I promise you'll never look at this spirit the same way again. We're going to explore how a byproduct of sugar production became more valuable than gold to men who made their living stealing treasure from the most powerful empires in the world. We'll discover how rum served essential functions that went far beyond getting pirates drunk. Functions that were literally matters of life and death on the open ocean. We'll trace the origins of rum from the sugar plantations of the Caribbean, where it was born from the ingenuity of enslaved people who turned waste molasses into liquid gold. We'll explore how this potent spirit became an essential tool for surviving the medical nightmares of 18th century sea travel, when a simple cut could turn fatal and drinking water could kill you faster than enemy cannons. We'll uncover rum's role as an alternative currency in a world where traditional sit money meant nothing once you left civilized ports behind. We'll see how it served as the social foundation that held pirate crews together, providing the liquid courage needed for impossible raids and the celebratory fuel for legendary parties that could last for days. We'll separate the myths from reality, exploring the famous songs and stories that cemented rum's place in pirate lore, while discovering the real historical figures whose relationship with rum was far more complex and essential than popular culture suggests. And we'll understand how this relationship between pirates and rum created cultural impacts that echo through our world today, influencing everything from popular music to marketing campaigns. But most importantly, we'll understand why rum represented something more profound than just a drink. It represented freedom, rebellion, survival, and the human capacity to turn necessity into legend. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why a pirate captain might choose a barrel of quality rum over a chest of Spanish gold, and why that choice made perfect sense in their dangerous world. So let's begin this voyage into the amber depths of pirate history, where we'll discover that the relationship between pirates and rum is one of the most fascinating examples of how human ingenuity, desperation, and opportunity can create legends that outlast the very people who lived them. The story of rum begins not with pirates, but with sugar, that sweet, white crystal that would reshape the global economy and create the conditions for both massive wealth and human misery on an unprecedented scale. To understand why rum became so central to pirate culture, we must first understand where it came from and how it became available in the Caribbean waters, where pirates made their fortunes and met their fates. Sugar cultivation in the Caribbean was a brutal enterprise built on the forced labor of enslaved Africans who were brought to work on plantations that stretched across islands from Barbados to Jamaica, from Cuba to Haiti. These plantations were industrial operations designed to feed Europe's growing appetite for sweetness. But they produced something else as a byproduct. A dark, thick syrup called molasses that would become the foundation of the rum industry. The process of sugar production was complex and labor-intensive, requiring enslaved workers to plant, tend, harvest, and process sugarcane under conditions of unimaginable brutality. The cane had to be cut by hand with machetes, transported to processing facilities, crushed in mills powered by wind, water, or animal labor, and then boiled in a series of copper vats to extract the sugar crystals. This boiling process created enormous quantities of molasses, a sticky, sweet byproduct that plantation owners initially considered worthless waste. For every pound of refined sugar produced, approximately 1 pound of molasses was created as a byproduct. With sugar plantations producing thousands of pounds of sugar annually, the amount of molasses waste was staggering. Molasses was initially considered a disposal problem rather than an opportunity. It couldn't be easily transported without expensive containers. It attracted insects and vermin that could contaminate other products, and it seemed to have no commercial value compared to the refined sugar that European markets craved. Plantation owners would sometimes dump molasses into rivers or the ocean, creating environmental problems while wasting what would later prove to be a valuable resource. But enslaved workers, drawing on traditional fermentation knowledge from Africa, an experimentation born of necessity, discovered that this waste product could be transformed into something far more valuable than anyone had imagined. The knowledge of fermentation and distillation that many enslaved Africans brought with them included techniques for creating alcoholic beverages from various plant materials, including palm wine, sorghum beer, and other traditional drinks. The process of creating rum from molasses was relatively simple in concept, but required knowledge and skill that had been passed down through generations of African brewing traditions. Molasses was mixed with water in specific ratios that varied depending on the quality of the molasses and the desired strength of the final product. This mixture was then allowed to ferment using natural yeasts present in the tropical air, though some distillers learned to cultivate specific yeast strains that produced better results. The fermentation process typically took between 1 and 2 weeks, depending on temperature, humidity, and the specific characteristics of the molasses and yeast. During this time, the sugars in the molasses were converted to alcohol, creating a mildly alcoholic beverage that was already more potent than most beers or wines available at the time. But the real transformation came through distillation, a process that concentrated the alcohol content and created the potent spirit that would become known as rum. The distillation process required copper stills that were often constructed secretly by enslaved workers who were not officially allowed to produce alcohol. These early stills were crude but effective, using heat to vaporize the alcohol from the fermented molasses mixture and then condensing it back into liquid form. The first rums were rough, harsh spirits that bore little resemblance to the smooth, aged rums we know today. They were typically clear or slightly amber in color, with alcohol content that could reach 60% or higher, strong enough to burn the throat and capable of being used as a cleaning solvent or antiseptic. But they had one crucial quality that made them perfect for life at sea. They did unspoil. Unlike wine or beer, which would sour quickly in tropical heat, rum actually improved with age and remained potable indefinitely when properly stored. The cultural significance of rum creation by enslaved people cannot be overstated. In transforming waste molasses into valuable rum, enslaved workers were demonstrating ingenuity, preserving cultural knowledge, and creating economic value that would eventually be recognized and exploited by plantation owners. However, the profits from rum production typically went to the plantation owners rather than the enslaved. People who created the product and perfected the production techniques. As word of this new spirit spread throughout the Caribbean and beyond, plantation owners realized they had stumbled upon a goldmine that could rival or exceed the value of sugar itself. What had been waste was now a product that could be sold for significant profits, creating a secondary revenue stream that sometimes exceeded the value of the primary sugar crop. Rum production became a legitimate industry, with distilleries established throughout the Caribbean to process the molasses that had previously been discarded. The timing of rum's emergence couldn't have been more perfect for the development of piracy as a major force in Caribbean waters. The Spanish Empire had established a monopoly on much of the region's wealth through their treasure fleets and colonial administration. But their ability to patrol and protect their vast territories was limited by distance, weather, and the sheer scope of their holdings. English, French, and Dutch colonists established their own settlements throughout the Caribbean, and began producing rum just as the Golden Age of Piracy was beginning to flourish. These competing colonial powers often turned a blind eye to pirate activities that targeted Spanish shipping. Seeing pirates as unofficial allies in their struggle against Spanish dominance in the region, pirates operating in these waters quickly discovered that rum offered advantages that went far beyond its intoxicating properties. In an era before refrigeration, scientific understanding of food preservation, or knowledge of basic hygiene, rum served functions that were literally matters of survival for crews spending months at sea with no access to fresh supplies or medical care. The most critical and immediately apparent function of rum was as a water purification and preservation system. Fresh water was simultaneously the most precious and most problematic resource on any sea voyage. The challenge of maintaining potable water during extended ocean voyages had plagued sailors for centuries and continued to be a major cause of death and disease throughout the age of sail. Water stored in wooden barrels would begin to develop serious problems within days of being sealed and stored in the warm, humid conditions typical of ship holds. The wooden barrels themselves, despite being treated with tar and other preservatives, were never completely sterile and often contained residues from their previous contents, which might have included wine, oil, or other organic materials that could contaminate the water. Within the first week of storage, fresh water would begin to develop a green-y slimy coating on its surface as algae and bacteria began to flourish in the warm, stagnant conditions. The water would take on an increasingly unpleasant odor that started as merely musty, but gradually became nauseating. The taste would become so foul that sailors would literally prefer to risk dehydration rather than drink it, creating a paradoxical situation where people surrounded by water were dying of thirst. By the time a barrel had been stored for a month or more, the contents were more likely to kill the drinker than sustain them. The water would be thick with organic growth, contaminated with bacteria and parasites that could cause dysentery, cholera, typhoid, and other diseases that were often fatal in an era without effective medical treatment. The irony was cruel. Sailors who had survived battles, storms, and all manner of dangers would die because they could unsafely drink the water they needed to live. Rum solved this problem through its alcohol content, which killed most of the bacteria, parasites, and other microorganisms that made water dangerous to drink. When mixed with contaminated water in the proper proportions, rum created a beverage that remained safe to consume for months at a time, while providing the hydration necessary for human survival. The creation of grog, rum mixed with water, became both an art and a science aboard pirate ships. The standard recipe called for 1 part rum mixed with 3 to 4 parts water, creating a drink with an alcohol content of roughly 15 to 20%. This was strong enough to kill harmful organisms, while remaining weak enough to allow functional consumption throughout the day without causing excessive intoxication. The name grog itself has an interesting origin that illustrates how naval traditions influenced pirate practices. It comes from Admiral Edward Vernon of the British Royal Navy, who was nicknamed Old Grog for his waterproof grogram cloak. Vernon was concerned about the effects of neat rum consumption on naval discipline, and ordered that the Navy's rum rations be diluted with water to prevent excessive intoxication while maintaining the health benefits. The mixture took on his nickname and became standard practice throughout maritime culture. Pirates, who operated with fewer rules and regulations than naval crews, often preferred their grog stronger than naval standards, or sometimes consumed their rum neat, depending on the circumstances, the quality of their water supplies, and their personal preferences. However, even the most hardened pirates understood that completely undiluted rum consumption was impractical for daily hydration, and could lead to dehydration, impaired judgment, and reduced operational effectiveness. The preparation of grog required careful attention to ratios and quality control. Too little rum, and the water would remain dangerous to drink. Too much rum, and the crew would become intoxicated to the point of uselessness. Pirates developed expertise in evaluating water quality and adjusting rum ratios accordingly, with heavily contaminated water requiring higher alcohol content for safety. The daily grog ceremony became an important ritual aboard pirate ships that served multiple functions beyond simply distributing alcohol. The measuring and mixing of grog was typically done publicly, with crew members watching to ensure fair distribution and proper preparation. This transparency helped prevent accusations of favoritism or adulteration that could undermine crew morale and trust. But rum's role in maintaining hydration and preventing waterborne diseases was just the beginning of its medical applications aboard pirate ships. In an era when medical knowledge was primitive, proper pharmaceuticals were non-existent, and surgeons were often barbers or other tradesmen with minimal medical training. Rum served as a multi-purpose medicine that could address a wide range of health problems that were common during extended sea voyages. As an antiseptic, rum was invaluable for treating wounds in an environment where bacterial infection was often a death sentence. The high alcohol content could sterilize cuts, scrapes, and surgical wounds, preventing the bacterial infections that killed more sailors than enemy action. Pirates would pour rum directly onto wounds, creating intense pain, but potentially saving lives by preventing gangrene and sepsis. The antiseptic properties of rum were particularly important given the unsanitary conditions aboard pirate ships and the frequency of injuries from combat, accidents, and the general hazards of maritime life. A simple cut from a sword or splinter from ship rigging could become infected and lead to amputation or death if not properly treated. Rum provided a readily available disinfectant that, while crude by modern standards, was often effective at preventing the worst outcomes. Rum-soaked cloth was used as bandaging material, providing both antiseptic treatment and some degree of protection for wounds. The alcohol would continue to provide antibacterial effects as the bandage remained in place, though the burning sensation was often described as excruciating by those who experienced it. For surgical procedures, and pirates faced many situations requiring emergency surgery, from removing musket balls to amputating damaged limbs, rum served as both anesthetic and antiseptic. Patients would consume large quantities of rum before procedures to dull the pain, while the surgical area and instruments would be washed with rum to reduce the risk of infection. Dental problems were endemic among pirates due to their poor diet of hardtack and salt meat, lack of dental hygiene, and the general wear and tear of their harsh lifestyle. Rum served multiple functions in dental care, acting as both pain reliever and antiseptic for dental procedures. When a pirate needed a tooth extracted, a common occurrence given their diet and lifestyle, rum would be used to numb the pain, sterilize the primitive tools available for the procedure, and prevent infection afterward. The phrase "taking it like a man" often involved consuming substantial quantities of rum before enduring dental or surgical procedures. That would be unthinkable without modern anesthesia. The alcohol would provide some degree of pain relief, while also reducing anxiety and fear associated with these crude medical interventions. Rum was also used to treat respiratory ailments that were common in the damp, crowded, poorly ventilated conditions below deck. Mixed with honey when available, lemon juice from captured citrus fruits, or various herbs found during shore expeditions. Rum created remedies for coughs, colds, and bronchial infections. While these treatments weren't scientifically validated, the warming effect of alcohol, its ability to thin mucus, and its mild antimicrobial properties provided some genuine relief for respiratory symptoms. The warming effects of rum consumption were particularly valued in situations where pirates found themselves in cold climates or during winter voyages. Alcohol creates a temporary sensation of warmth by dilating blood vessels near the skin, though it actually increases heat loss and can be dangerous in truly cold conditions. However, for pirates operating in generally warm Caribbean waters, the psychological comfort of feeling warm could be valuable for morale and mental health. For digestive problems, which were constant issues given the poor quality of preserved food available to pirates, rum served multiple functions that demonstrated surprising sophistication in its medical applications. Small amounts of rum consumed before meals could stimulate appetite and aid digestion, helping pirates extract maximum nutrition from their limited and often unappetizing food supplies. When food poisoning occurred, which was frequent given the lack of refrigeration and food safety knowledge, larger quantities of rum could provide relief by helping to purge contaminated food from the system. The antibacterial properties of alcohol also helped combat gastrointestinal infections that were common when eating preserved foods of questionable quality. Pirates developed various rum-based remedies for specific digestive complaints, often incorporating ingredients found during shore expeditions or captured from merchant vessels. Rum mixed with ginger could help with nausea and seasickness, while rum combined with various herbs created treatments for stomach pain and digestive disorders. Perhaps most importantly, from a psychological standpoint, rum served as a pain reliever and mood enhancer that helped pirates cope with the physical and psychological challenges of their dangerous and often miserable lifestyle. The chronic pain from injuries, malnutrition, and hard physical labor could be temporarily relieved by alcohol consumption, providing moments of respite that were essential for maintaining sanity and functionality. The anxiety and depression that resulted from constant danger isolation from normal society, awareness that death could come at any moment, and the general stress of their outlaw lifestyle were dulled by rum's effects on the nervous system. While alcohol is a poor long-term solution for mental health problems, in the short term it provided psychological relief that was crucial for maintaining crew morale and cohesion. The social and psychological benefits of controlled rum consumption cannot be gauged, and understanding its importance to pirate culture. Life aboard a pirate ship was characterized by extreme stress, constant danger, and the knowledge that each voyage might be their last. The crews were composed of men from vastly different backgrounds, nationalities, and social classes, who had to work together in cramped, uncomfortable conditions while facing the constant threat of violence from enemies, natural disasters, disease, or even their own shipmates. Rum provided a social lubricant that helped diverse groups of men bond together and function as a cohesive unit despite their differences and the pressures of their situation. Shared drinking rituals created camaraderie that transcended differences in background, nationality, or previous social status. The act of sharing rum was a gesture of trust and friendship that helped establish the social bonds necessary for effective cooperation during dangerous operations. The relaxation and disinhibition that came with moderate rum consumption helped relieve the constant tension that characterized life at sea. Pirates could temporarily forget their troubles, their fears, their awareness of mortality, and their conflicts with each other, while enjoying the companionship of their fellow crew members. These moments of relaxation and joy were essential for maintaining mental health during extended periods of stress and hardship. Rum consumption also served as a form of liquid courage that helped pirates overcome the natural human reluctance to engage in extremely dangerous activities. Boarding an enemy ship required facing trained soldiers armed with swords, muskets, and cannons while being outnumbered and fighting on unfamiliar terrain. The confidence and reduced fear that came from rum consumption, what was historically called Dutch courage, helped pirates summon the bravery necessary to attempt seemingly impossible raids and boarding actions. However, the social aspects of rum consumption also created potential problems that had to be carefully managed to prevent them from undermining crew cohesion and operational effectiveness. Arguments over rum distribution could escalate into violence that threatened crew unity, while excessive drinking could lead to poor decision-making, reduced vigilance, and impaired performance during critical operations. Pirates developed sophisticated social protocols around rum consumption that balanced the benefits of alcohol with the need to maintain discipline and effectiveness. These protocols varied between different crews and captains, but generally involved careful rules about when, where, and how much rum could be consumed under different circumstances. During combat operations, rum consumption was typically limited to small amounts used for liquid courage before battle, with larger celebrations reserved for after successful raids when the immediate danger had passed. The need to maintain coordination, judgment, and fighting ability during dangerous operations outweighed the social and psychological benefits of alcohol consumption. During extended voyages, daily rum rations were carefully controlled to ensure supplies lasted the entire journey, while providing sufficient alcohol for water purification, medical needs, and crew morale. Pirates learned through bitter experience how to balance their desire for alcohol with the practical necessity of maintaining adequate supplies for survival. Shore leave periods were traditionally times when rum consumption restrictions were relaxed, allowing pirates to celebrate their successes and release the tensions that had built up during dangerous operations at sea. However, even during these celebrations, Experienced pirates recognized the need to maintain some level of control to avoid compromising their security, squandering their resources, or creating conflicts that could carry over into their next voyage. The quality of rum available to pirates varied dramatically, depending on their recent success, their location, and the sources from which they obtained their supplies. This variation in quality had significant implications for both the practical uses of rum and its value as a trade commodity. Premium rum, distilled in established facilities using traditional techniques and aged in proper conditions, was smooth, flavorful, and represented the finest products that Caribbean distilleries could produce. This high-quality rum was often reserved for special occasions, celebrations, diplomatic negotiations, or trading purposes because of its exceptional value and appeal to discerning consumers. The production of premium rum required expertise, proper equipment, quality ingredients, and time for aging that many producers couldn't or wouldn't invest. The best rums were aged in oak barrels that had previously held wine or other spirits, which imparted complex flavors and smoothed out the harsh edges of the raw distilled spirit. This aging process could take years and required stable storage conditions that weren't always available in the Caribbean's tropical climate. The majority of rum consumed by pirates was of middle quality, serviceable but unremarkable spirits that fulfilled their basic functions, without providing exceptional pleasure or commanding premium prices. This rum was typically clear or lightly colored, with alcohol content ranging from 40% to 60%, and was suitable for daily grog rations, medical uses, and general consumption without being considered a luxury item. Middle-quality rum was the workhorse of pirate operations, providing the alcohol content necessary for water purification and basic medical needs, while being affordable enough to maintain adequate supplies for extended voyages. This rum was often produced quickly, without extensive aging, resulting in a harsher taste that was acceptable when mixed with water or other ingredients but less appealing when consumed neat. Low-quality rum, sometimes derisively called Kildeville for its harsh burning qualities and potential to cause serious harm, was often the only option available in remote locations or from disreputable suppliers who prioritized quantity over quality. This rough spirit could be harsh enough to cause chemical burns in the mouth and throat, and was sometimes contaminated with dangerous impurities from poor distillation practices. Despite its harsh qualities, low-quality rum still served essential functions as an antiseptic, water purifier, and source of alcohol for pirates who had no better options available. Pirates would sometimes attempt to improve low-quality rum through various techniques, including filtering it through charcoal, aging it in captured barrels, or mixing it with other ingredients to mask its harsh qualities and make it more palatable. The storage and preservation of rum presented its own challenges aboard pirate ships, where space was at a premium and conditions were harsh. Rum had to be stored in watertight containers that could withstand the constant motion of the ship, dramatic temperature fluctuations, and the corrosive effects of salt air that could penetrate even sealed containers. Wooden barrels were the preferred storage method for rum, but they required constant maintenance and could be damaged by combat, storms, or simply the wear and tear of maritime life. Pirates became skilled at coopering, the art of making and maintaining wooden barrels, because their lives literally depended on keeping their rum supplies properly stored and protected. The size of rum barrels varied depending on the ship's storage capacity and the crew's consumption needs. Smaller barrels were easier to handle and move around the ship, but required more frequent opening, which increased the risk of contamination. Larger barrels were more efficient for storage, but were difficult to move and could be catastrophic losses if damaged or lost overboard. Pirates developed various techniques for protecting their rum supplies from the hazards of sea travel. Barrels were often wrapped in canvas or leather to protect them from moisture and impact damage. They were secured with rope and wooden blocks to prevent them from shifting during storms. Some pirates even developed primitive insurance systems where rum supplies were distributed among multiple containers to minimize losses from any single accident. The distribution of rum among crew members was governed by strict codes and democratic principles that reflected the egalitarian nature of pirate society. Unlike traditional naval vessels where officers controlled alcohol distribution and often received better quality or larger quantities, pirate ships operated under articles and agreements that specified how rum would be shared among all crew members. These democratic principles extended to decisions about rum acquisition, storage, and use as currency or trade goods. Major expenditures of rum supplies typically required crew approval, reflecting the recognition that rum belonged to the entire crew rather than being the captain's personal property. This collective ownership helped prevent the abuse of power that could undermine crew loyalty and effectiveness. The role of the ship's quartermaster in controlling rum supplies was crucial for maintaining crew discipline and preventing conflicts. The quartermaster, typically elected by the crew rather than appointed by the captain, was responsible for fairly distributing daily rations, maintaining accurate records of rum supplies, and ensuring that rum stores were used for the benefit of the entire crew, rather than being monopolized by officers or favorites. But even with democratic principles and careful controls, rum consumption could create problems that threatened crew cohesion and operational security. Pirates who became dependent on alcohol faced withdrawal symptoms when supplies ran low, potentially compromising their ability to function during critical moments. The combination of poor nutrition, harsh living conditions, stress, and regular alcohol consumption took a cumulative toll on health that contributed to the relatively short life expectancy of most pirates. The acquisition of rum supplies was a constant preoccupation that influenced pirate strategy, target selection, and operational planning. Raids on merchant vessels were planned partly based on intelligence about their alcohol cargo, with ships carrying quality rum being preferred targets even when their monetary cargo was less valuable than other potential prizes. The capture of a vessel loaded with premium rum could provide supplies that lasted for months, while also yielding valuable trading commodities that could be used to obtain other necessities. Pirates developed networks of informants in various ports who could provide intelligence about ships carrying valuable rum cargoes, their departure schedules, and their likely routes. Sugar plantations and distilleries represented prime targets for pirate raids, not just for their immediate monetary value, but for their rum production capabilities and stored supplies. The capture of a distillery could provide pirates with massive quantities of fresh rum, while also yielding equipment, technical knowledge, and sometimes skilled workers who could help establish pirate-controlled rum production facilities. Some pirate crews established ongoing relationships with rum producers that blurred the lines between piracy and legitimate commerce. These arrangements might involve protection services in exchange for regular rum supplies, profit-sharing agreements that provided steady income streams, or complex barter arrangements that allowed both parties to benefit from the relationship while maintaining plausible deniability about illegal activities. But rum's importance to pirates extended far beyond its medical and social functions. It served as an alternative form of currency. that was often more valuable and reliable than traditional money in the lawless world of Caribbean piracy. In ports where pirates were unwelcome, where traditional banking systems were non-existent, and where the legitimacy of various currencies was questionable, rum provided a medium of exchange that was universally recognized and accepted. The value of rum as currency was based on several factors that made it superior to gold, silver, or paper money in many situations encountered by pirates. Unlike precious metals, rum had intrinsic value as a consumable product that was always in demand among sailors, colonists, and anyone else who needed safe drinking water, medicine, or recreational beverage. This intrinsic value meant that rum could never become completely worthless the way currency could. If political situations changed or economic systems collapsed, rum was easily divisible into small quantities for minor transactions, allowing pirates to make purchases or payments in precise amounts, without the need for making change or dealing with fractional currency. A bottle of rum could be divided into individual drinks, while a gold coin could not be easily split for small purchases. The portability of rum made it ideal for pirates who needed to transport their wealth quickly and efficiently. Rum could be carried in bottles, barrels, or other containers that were designed for transportation and handling, unlike chests of gold or silver that required multiple people to move and were obvious targets for theft. Rum supplies could be distributed throughout the ship and moved discreetly when necessary. Perhaps most importantly, the quality and authenticity of rum could be verified through taste, smell, and visual inspection by anyone with basic knowledge of spirits. This made it much harder to counterfeit than metal currency, which required specialized knowledge to authenticate and could be debased or counterfeited by skilled forgers. In Caribbean ports, where pirates conducted their business, rum served as the foundation of a complex barter economy that operated alongside, or sometimes instead of traditional monetary systems. Merchants would accept rum in payment for food, supplies, weapons, and services, often preferring it to coins that might be counterfeit, debased, or difficult to authenticate. The exchange rates between rum and other goods were determined by market forces, including the quality of the rum, the demand for various products, and the negotiating skills of the parties involved. High-quality aged rum commanded premium prices, while rough, new rum was valued more for its practical utility than its drinking pleasure. Pirates used rum to purchase essential supplies that kept their operations functional and their crews healthy. Food vendors would accept rum in exchange for fresh provisions that could prevent scurvy and other nutritional diseases. The ability to obtain fresh fruits, vegetables, and meat in exchange for rum could mean the difference between a healthy crew and one decimated by malnutrition. Shipwrights, carpenters, sailmakers, and other skilled craftsmen would repair and maintain pirate vessels in exchange for quality rum. These services were essential for keeping ships seaworthy and operational, and the craftsmen often preferred rum payment because it provided them with a valuable commodity that could be consumed, sold, or used for their own trading activities. Weapons dealers and ammunition suppliers would trade their products for rum, providing pirates with the arms and supplies necessary for their raiding activities. The illegal nature of these transactions made traditional banking arrangements impossible, but rum provided a mutually acceptable medium of exchange that satisfied both parties. Information brokers, corrupt officials, and local informants would provide intelligence about merchant shipping schedules, cargo manifests, naval patrol routes, and other valuable information in exchange for rum payments. This intelligence was crucial for successful pirate operations, and the ability to pay informants in rum rather than traceable currency helped maintain operational security. The bribery of colonial officials, port authorities, customs agents, and other government representatives often involved rum rather than traditional currency. A customs official might overlook irregularities in ship papers for a case of quality rum, while a harbour master might provide preferential docking arrangements in exchange for premium spirits. These corrupt arrangements were essential for pirates, who needed access to ports and services but could not operate through legitimate channels. Rum also served as a form of savings and investment for pirates who could not use traditional banking systems or trust conventional financial institutions. Quality rum actually improved with age when properly stored, making it an appreciating asset that could increase in value over time. Pirates would sometimes hoard premium rum, not for immediate consumption, but as a form of wealth storage that could be liquidated when needed for major purchases or emergency situations. The international nature of Caribbean piracy meant that rum served as a universal currency that was recognized and valued across different colonial systems, languages, and legal frameworks. Whether dealing with Spanish merchants in Havana, English traders in Port Royal, French suppliers in Tortuga, or Dutch vendors in Curaçao, pirates could rely on rum's universal appeal and recognized value to facilitate transactions. But the use of rum as currency created its own challenges and temptations that pirates had to navigate carefully. Pirates had to balance their need to maintain adequate rum supplies for health, social, and operational purposes against the temptation to spend their liquid assets on immediate pleasures, unnecessary luxuries, or poor investment decisions. The portability that made rum valuable as currency also made it vulnerable to theft, breakage, evaporation, and other forms of loss that could quickly diminish a pirate's wealth. Unlike gold buried in a secure location, rum supplies required constant protection and maintenance to preserve their value. The perishable nature of rum, while much more stable than most alcoholic beverages, meant that pirates had to consume or trade their supplies within reasonable time frames to prevent deterioration. Rum that became contaminated, sour, or unpalatable could lose much of its value and utility. The quality control of rum used as currency required expertise that not all pirates possessed. The ability to evaluate rum quality, detect adulteration, negotiate fair exchange rates, and identify premium products became valuable skills that could mean the difference between profitable transactions and expensive mistakes. Some pirates developed reputations as rum experts whose judgment was trusted by their crews and trading partners. The social aspects of rum consumption within pirate crews created complex dynamics that went far beyond simple intoxication or recreational drinking. These social dynamics were crucial for understanding how diverse groups of men from different backgrounds, cultures, and social classes could work together effectively in the dangerous and stressful environment of pirate operations. Sharing rum was a fundamental gesture of friendship, trust, and group membership that helped establish and maintain the relationships necessary for effective cooperation. During dangerous operations, the act of offering rum to a shipmate demonstrated respect and acceptance, while refusing to share could be interpreted as hostility or rejection that could damage crew relationships. The quality of rum a pirate could afford, access, or contribute to group consumption became a status symbol that reflected their success, wealth, and position within the crew hierarchy. Pirates who consistently contributed high-quality rum to group celebrations gained respect and influence, while those who could only provide low-quality spirits or who consumed more than they contributed could find their social standing diminished. But rum consumption also had the potential to create conflicts and problems that could threaten crew cohesion and operational effectiveness. disputes over rum distribution, accusations of theft or hoarding, arguments about quality or fair shares, and conflicts arising from excessive drinking could escalate into violence that divided crews and compromised their ability to function as effective units. Pirates developed sophisticated social protocols and behavioral codes around rum consumption that balanced the benefits of alcohol with the need to maintain discipline, fairness, and group cohesion. These protocols varied between different crews and captains, but generally involved detailed rules about when, where, how much, and in what manner rum could be consumed under different circumstances. The timing of rum consumption was carefully regulated to ensure that it enhanced rather than interfered with operational effectiveness. Before combat operations, small amounts of rum might be distributed to provide liquid courage and reduce anxiety, but larger consumption was typically prohibited to maintain coordination and judgment during dangerous encounters. During extended voyages, daily rum rations were distributed according to established schedules that ensured fair treatment, while maintaining adequate supplies for the entire journey. The ceremony of rum distribution became an important daily ritual that reinforced crew solidarity and provided a regular opportunity for social interaction and bonding. Shore leave periods were traditionally times when rum consumption restrictions were relaxed, allowing pirates to celebrate their successes, release accumulated stress, and enjoy the fruits of their dangerous labor. However, even during these celebrations, experienced crews maintained some level of organization and control to prevent conflicts, protect their security, and avoid squandering their resources. The role of pirate captains in managing rum consumption reflected the democratic principles that distinguished pirate society from traditional naval hierarchies. Unlike naval officers who could arbitrarily control alcohol distribution, pirate captains had to balance their authority with crew expectations and democratic agreements that guaranteed fair treatment and shared resources. Successful pirate captains understood that rum management was a crucial leadership skill that could determine their ability to maintain crew loyalty and operational effectiveness. They had to demonstrate fairness in distribution, wisdom in rationing, and strategic thinking in acquisition, while also participating in the social rituals that rum consumption represented. Some captains gained legendary status partly through their skill at managing rum supplies and creating memorable celebrations that bonded their crews together. These captains understood that rum wasn't just a resource to be managed, but a social tool that could be used to build loyalty, reward performance, and create the group identity that was essential for successful pirate operations. The relationship between different crew members and rum consumption reflected and reinforced the social hierarchies that existed within pirate society, despite its democratic principles. Officers might receive slightly larger rations or access to higher quality rum, but these privileges had to be balanced against crew expectations of fairness and shared sacrifice. Experienced pirates who had demonstrated their value to the crew through skill, courage, or loyalty might be granted special privileges in rum consumption, while new crew members had to prove themselves before gaining full access to the social benefits that rum consumption provided. These gradations in privilege helped maintain crew discipline while providing incentives for good performance. The integration of new crew members often involved rum-sharing rituals that served as both welcome ceremonies and loyalty tests. A new pirate's willingness to share their rum with the crew demonstrated their commitment to group solidarity, while the crew's willingness to share their rum with newcomers indicated acceptance and trust. But perhaps the most complex aspect of rum's social role was its function in conflict resolution and crew discipline. Rum could serve as both cause and solution for interpersonal conflicts within pirate crews, requiring careful management to prevent alcohol-related problems from undermining crew effectiveness. When conflicts arose between crew members, rum-sharing rituals could serve as peacemaking ceremonies that allowed antagonists to demonstrate their commitment to crew unity over personal grievances. The act of drinking together was seen as a gesture of reconciliation that could help resolve disputes before they escalated into violence. However, rum consumption could also exacerbate existing tensions and create new conflicts through disinhibition, poor judgment, and the magnification of personality conflicts. Pirates had to develop sophisticated social skills for managing alcohol-related disputes and preventing them from destroying crew cohesion. The punishment of crew members who violated rum-sharing protocols or who caused problems through excessive drinking could involve restrictions on future rum access, public humiliation during rum distribution ceremonies, or even expulsion from the crew in severe cases. These social consequences were often more effective than physical punishment in maintaining crew discipline. The transportation and storage of large quantities of rum presented logistical challenges that required careful planning and execution during pirate operations. Rum had to be transferred between ships quickly during raids to minimize exposure to enemy fire, packed securely to prevent breakage during storms, and stored properly to prevent spoilage or contamination during extended voyages. Pirates developed specialized techniques for rapidly assessing and transferring rum cargo during ship raids. They learned to identify the highest quality spirits quickly, prioritize the most valuable varieties for transfer, and safely transport fragile containers under dangerous conditions. These skills became essential parts of pirate training and experience that separated successful crews from amateur operations. The loading and securing of rum barrels required knowledge of ship design, weight distribution, and cargo handling that went beyond simple manual labor. Improperly stored rum could shift during storms and damage the ship's hull, while poorly secured barrels could break loose and injure crew members or damage other cargo. Pirates became expert coopers and barrel maintenance specialists out of necessity, learning to repair damaged containers, replace broken hoops, and maintain the wooden staves that kept their precious rum supplies secure. The loss of rum supplies due to poor storage could be catastrophic for crew morale and survival, making these maintenance skills crucial for successful operations. The climate challenges of storing rum in tropical conditions required understanding of temperature effects, humidity control, and ventilation that many pirates learned through trial and error. Rum stored in poorly ventilated holds could develop off flavors or become contaminated, while exposure to extreme temperatures could cause expansion and contraction that damaged containers. Some pirates developed sophisticated storage systems that used different areas of the ship for different types of rum, with the highest quality spirits stored in the most secure and climate-controlled locations available. These systems reflected understanding of rum characteristics and storage requirements that would be impressive even by modern standards. Now, let us explore how these practical necessities and social dynamics evolved into the legendary stories and cultural myths that have made rum inseparable from pirate lore in popular imagination. The transformation of rum from survival tool to cultural symbol happened gradually over centuries through a combination of real experiences, creative storytelling, and the human tendency to romanticize dangerous and forbidden lifestyles. The most famous connection between pirates and rum in popular culture comes from Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, published in 1883. Which includes the haunting refrain, 15 men on the dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum. This simple verse has done more to cement the association between pirates and rum than perhaps any other single piece of literature in history, creating an image that has influenced popular culture for well over a century. But the interesting thing about this famous song is that Stevenson essentially created it from his imagination, drawing inspiration from the name of a small, uninhabited island in the British Virgin Islands called Dead Man's Chest. The island gets its name from its resemblance to a prone human figure when viewed from certain angles. But Stevenson transformed this geographical feature into a story that captured the essence of pirate culture. According to the legend that Stevenson created and that has since become part of pirate folklore, the notorious pirate, Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, marooned 15 mutinous crew members on this barren island with only a bottle of rum and a cutlass, telling them to resolve their disputes among themselves, and that he would return for whoever survived the ordeal. Whether this story has any basis in historical fact, and most historians believe it does, it captures something essential about the relationship between pirates and rum that resonated with readers and has continued to influence popular culture. The image of desperate men facing death with only rum for comfort speaks to the harsh realities of pirate life, while also romanticizing their rebellious spirit and fatalistic approach to mortality. The psychological power of this image lies in its combination of adventure and tragedy, freedom and consequence, celebration and death. The rum represents both the pleasures and the dangers of the pirate lifestyle. It's simultaneously the reward for their freedom and the companion in their doom. This duality has made the image incredibly powerful and enduring in popular imagination. Stevenson's verse became so popular and influential that it was later expanded into full songs by various writers, musicians, and storytellers, with different versions appearing in books, plays, movies, and eventually becoming part of maritime folk music traditions. The basic theme remained consistent across all these variations: rum as the constant companion of pirates facing danger, death, and the consequences of their choices. The yo-ho-ho became a generic pirate exclamation that had no historical basis but perfectly captured the popular imagination. Some idea of how pirates should sound: jovial, rebellious, and slightly intoxicated. This nonsense phrase became so associated with pirates that it is now impossible to imagine pirate dialogue without some variation of it, even though real pirates never used such expressions. But while Stevenson's fictional pirates were singing about rum, real historical pirates were living complex relationships with alcohol that were far more nuanced, practical, and essential than popular culture suggests. The real stories of historical pirates and their relationships with rum are actually more interesting and remarkable than the fictional versions, though they lack the simple romance that makes stories appealing to mass audiences. Take Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, who has become perhaps the most famous pirate in history partly due to his legendary consumption of rum and his theatrical use of alcohol as part of his carefully crafted, fearsome reputation. Blackbeard understood that piracy was as much about psychological warfare as it was about physical violence, and he used rum as a prop in creating an image that was more terrifying than any weapon. Blackbeard was known to drink rum mixed with gunpowder, creating a concoction that would burn intensely going down and could be ignited to create dramatic flames for theatrical effect. This wasn't just bravado or showing off. It served the practical purpose of creating a terrifying impression on his enemies while also demonstrating his toughness, his disregard for personal safety, and his almost supernatural ability to withstand pain and danger. The psychological impact of seeing a pirate captain drink flaming rum while his beard smouldered with lit hemp cords was designed to convince enemy crews that resistance was futile against someone who was clearly insane, superhuman, or protected by dark forces. This theatrical use of rum was part of a comprehensive strategy of intimidation that often allowed Blackbeard to capture ships without firing a shot. Contemporary accounts describe Blackbeard as consuming enormous quantities of rum without apparent ill effects, though these stories were likely exaggerated by both his enemies, who wanted to portray him as a monster, and his admirers, who wanted to emphasize his larger-than-life qualities. The reality was probably that Blackbeard, like most successful pirate captains, understood the need to maintain functional sobriety while using alcohol strategically for intimidation and crew management. Blackbeard's relationship with rum also reflected the practical necessities of maintaining crew loyalty and morale during dangerous operations. He was known for sharing high-quality rum with his crew during celebrations, using alcohol as a reward system that encouraged loyalty and good performance. His ability to obtain and distribute premium rum was part of his appeal as a leader who could provide for his followers. The historical record suggests that Blackbeard was actually quite strategic in his rum consumption, using it as a tool rather than simply indulging in it. He understood that excessive drinking could compromise his judgment and authority, while moderate consumption could enhance his reputation and effectiveness as a pirate captain. Another historical figure whose name became permanently associated with rum was Sir Henry Morgan, a Welsh privateer who operated in the Caribbean during the 17th century, and whose exploits were so legendary that his name was eventually used for one of the world's most famous rum brands, Captain Morgan. The real Henry Morgan was a complex figure who operated in the grey area between legitimate privateering and outright piracy, holding commissions from the English government while conducting raids that were often indistinguishable from pure piracy. His relationship with rum was similarly complex. He used it as a tool for maintaining crew loyalty, conducting diplomacy with local officials, celebrating victories, and establishing his reputation as a successful and generous leader. Morgan's most famous exploit was the capture and sack of Panama City in 1671, a raid that required marching across the Isthmus of Panama through hostile territory, defeating Spanish forces in several battles and capturing one of the most heavily fortified cities in the Spanish Empire. The operation yielded enormous quantities of gold and silver, but also substantial stores of rum and other alcoholic beverages that were crucial for maintaining crew morale during the difficult campaign. The celebration that followed the capture of Panama City lasted for several days and became legendary throughout the Caribbean, establishing Morgan's reputation as both a successful military commander and an epic party host. The rum consumption during this celebration was described by contemporary witnesses as extraordinary, even by Caribbean standards, with Morgan's crew consuming vast quantities of captured Spanish rum while dividing their enormous plunder. But Morgan's story also illustrates the complex relationship between alcohol and long-term success in the pirate world. His eventual knighthood and appointment as Lieutenant Governor of Jamaica required him to transition from pirate captain to respectable colonial official, a transformation that involved moderating his drinking habits and adopting more conventional social behaviors. The rum that had been essential to Morgan's success as a pirate became a potential liability in his new role as a representative of English colonial authority. He had to learn to balance his legendary reputation with the requirements of respectability, using his knowledge of rum and pirate culture to help combat the very pirates he had once led. Morgan's success in both roles demonstrates the sophisticated understanding of rum's social and political functions that characterize the most successful pirates. He understood when to drink, when to share, when to abstain, and how to use alcohol as a tool for achieving his goals, rather than simply as a recreational substance. The stories of Blackbeard and Morgan became templates for how popular culture would portray the relationship between pirates and rum, as essential, excessive, theatrical, and ultimately romantic in its disregard for conventional social norms. But these stories also reflect the reality that successful pirates had to be strategic and sophisticated in their use of alcohol, understanding its potential benefits and dangers. Many other historical pirates had complex relationships with rum that don't fit the stereotypical image of constantly intoxicated criminals stumbling around with bottles in their hands. Bartholomew Roberts, known as Black Bart, and considered one of the most successful pirates in history, was famous for restricting alcohol consumption among his crew, believing that excessive drinking compromised discipline, judgment, and operational effectiveness. Roberts' approach to rum management reflected his understanding of the delicate balance required for successful pirate operations over extended periods. He recognized that while rum was essential for health, morale, and social cohesion, it could also be dangerous if not properly controlled and rationed. His ship's articles included specific provisions about rum consumption that were designed to maximize benefits while minimizing risks. Roberts allowed controlled drinking during celebrations and shore leave, but maintained strict sobriety requirements during dangerous operations and extended voyages. His success, he captured over 400 ships during his relatively short career, suggests that this balanced approach to alcohol management was more effective than either complete prohibition or unrestricted consumption. The contrast between Roberts' disciplined approach and the popular image of rum-soaked pirates illustrates the gap between historical reality and cultural mythology. Real pirates had to make practical decisions about alcohol use based on their understanding of its effects on crew performance, ship operations, and long-term survival. Anne Bonny and Mary Read, two of the most famous female pirates in history, also had documented relationships with rum that reflected both its practical importance and its social significance in pirate culture. Contemporary accounts describe both women as capable of matching their male counterparts drink for drink, while maintaining the judgment and fighting ability necessary for successful pirate operations. The stories of these female pirates are particularly interesting because they had to prove themselves in an overwhelmingly male environment, where physical strength, courage, and drinking capacity were all measures of worth and acceptability. Their ability to handle rum was part of their credentials as legitimate pirates, rather than just curiosities or camp followers. Anne Bonny was described by witnesses as drinking rum like a man, while maintaining her effectiveness as a fighter and decision-maker during dangerous operations. This characterization reflects the social expectations of pirate culture, where alcohol tolerance was seen as a sign of strength and reliability rather than a character flaw. Mary Read's relationship with rum was complicated by her disguise as a male pirate for much of her career, requiring her to adopt drinking patterns and behaviors that would convince her shipmates of her masculine identity. Her success in this deception suggests sophisticated understanding of how rum consumption functioned as a social marker in pirate society. The eventual capture and trial of both women provided detailed testimony about pirate drinking customs and the role of rum in their daily lives. These historical records give us some of the most accurate information available about how rum actually functioned in pirate society rather than how it was portrayed in popular stories. But perhaps The most important thing to understand about historical pirates and rum is that their relationship with alcohol was fundamentally shaped by practical necessities rather than recreational preferences or cultural traditions. Pirates did undevelop their drinking customs because they enjoyed being intoxicated. They developed them because alcohol was essential for survival in their harsh environment. This practical foundation gave their rum consumption a different character than the recreational drinking that characterizes modern alcohol culture. Pirates approached rum with the seriousness of people who understood that their lives might depend on having adequate supplies and using them wisely for maximum benefit. The celebrations and excesses that attracted popular attention and eventually became the basis for pirate legends were relatively rare events rather than daily occurrences. Most rum consumption by pirates was functional rather than recreational, designed to serve specific purposes related to health, safety, social cohesion, or operational effectiveness. The transformation of these practical necessities into romantic legends happened gradually over centuries as the harsh realities of pirate life were forgotten and replaced by more appealing stories of adventure and freedom. The process was aided by the natural human tendency to romanticize dangerous and forbidden lifestyles, especially when viewed from the safety of more civilized circumstances. The rum that had been essential medicine became liquid courage in popular stories. The careful rationing became endless parties. The strategic use became reckless consumption. The survival tool became a symbol of rebellion and freedom. Each transformation moved further away from historical reality but closer to the psychological needs of audiences who wanted to believe in the possibility of absolute freedom and adventure. This romanticization process was aided by the fact that rum itself became associated with exotic tropical locations, escape from conventional social constraints, and rebellion against authority. As the Caribbean became a tourist destination and rum became a recreational beverage rather than a survival necessity, the associations with pirates became part of its marketing appeal rather than its practical identity. The music industry played a significant role in cementing these associations through sea shanties, folk songs, and eventually popular music that celebrated the connection between pirates and rum. Songs like Drunken Sailor and various versions of the Dead Man's Chest verse became part of maritime culture and eventually mainstream entertainment that shaped public perceptions. These musical traditions served multiple functions in historical pirate culture beyond simple entertainment. Work songs helped coordinate labor during difficult and dangerous tasks like raising anchors, adjusting sails, or loading cargo, while drinking songs provided social bonding activities that strengthened crew relationships and created shared cultural experiences. The rhythm and repetition of sea shanties made them ideal for synchronizing group activities that required coordinated effort from multiple crew members. The command-response structure allowed a song leader to set the pace and timing, while other crew members provided the physical labor needed to accomplish complex tasks. But the songs also served as oral history and cultural transmission, preserving and communicating stories about famous pirates, legendary exploits, successful raids, and the cultural values that defined pirate society. The emphasis on rum in these songs reflected its genuine importance in pirate life, while also contributing to its mythological significance for future generations. The evolution of pirate-themed entertainment, from folk songs to Broadway musicals to Hollywood movies, has consistently emphasized rum as an essential element of pirate identity across different media and time periods. This consistency suggests that the association resonates with something fundamental in human psychology about rebellion, freedom, and the rejection of social constraints. Modern pirate-themed marketing, from Captain Morgan rum to pirate-themed restaurants, bars, and tourist attractions, draws heavily on these cultural associations while largely ignoring the historical realities that created them. The rum that was once essential for preventing death from waterborne diseases has become a party drink, associated with fun and relaxation rather than survival and medicine. This transformation reflects broader changes in how society views alcohol, piracy, and adventure in general. The harsh realities of 18th-century maritime life have been replaced by sanitized entertainment that emphasizes the exciting and appealing aspects while ignoring the suffering, disease, violence, and early death that characterized actual pirate careers. But understanding the real history of pirates and rum does undiminish the power of the legends. It enriches them by revealing the human ingenuity, desperation, courage, and resilience that created the foundation for our modern myths. The pirates who drank rum to survive in impossible conditions were more remarkable than the fictional characters who drink it for fun and adventure. The cultural impact of the Pirate Rum Association extends far beyond entertainment and marketing into broader questions about how societies remember and interpret their past, how legends develop and persist, and how practical necessities can become powerful symbols that outlast the conditions that created them. Rum's role in this cultural mythology serves as a symbol for liquid courage, for the ability to face impossible odds with style, and defiance, for the rejection of conventional morality in favor of personal authenticity and freedom. These associations have made rum a powerful cultural symbol that transcends its origins as a practical survival tool and medical necessity. The persistence of these associations across centuries, cultures, and different forms of media suggests that they tap into something fundamental about human nature and social psychology. The image of the pirate raising a bottle of rum in defiance of death, an authority, speaks to deep human desires for freedom, authenticity, adventure, and the courage to live life on one's own terms, regardless of consequences. But it's also important to recognize that this romanticization has come at the cost of historical accuracy and cultural understanding. The real pirates, who relied on rum for survival, faced challenges and made sacrifices that are obscured by myths that emphasize adventure and excitement while ignoring suffering and hardship. The sanitization of pirate history has created a version of the past that is more appealing but less truthful than the actual experiences of the people who lived it. This process of romanticization is natural and perhaps inevitable, but it can prevent us from learning the real lessons that history has to teach about human adaptability, creativity, and resilience. As we conclude this journey through the complex relationship between pirates and rum, it's worth reflecting on what this history teaches us about human adaptability, the power of necessity to create culture, innovation in the face of impossible challenges, and the ways that practical tools can become powerful symbols that outlast the conditions that created them. The pirates who first mixed rum with contaminated water to create drinkable grog were solving an immediate survival problem, using the materials available to them, but they were also creating a cultural tradition that would influence literature, music, marketing, and popular imagination for centuries to come. Their practical innovation became the foundation for legends that continue to shape how we think about freedom, rebellion, adventure, and the human spirit. The story of pirates and rum is ultimately a story about human creativity and resilience in the face of impossible challenges. The enslaved people who created rum from waste molasses, the pirates who used it to survive in conditions that would kill most modern people, and the storytellers who transformed these harsh realities into appealing myths all demonstrated the human capacity to create value, meaning, and beauty from the most difficult circumstances. Understanding this history doesn't destroy the romance of pirate legends. It enriches them by revealing the real human courage, ingenuity, and determination that made the legends possible in the first place. The pirates who drank rum to prevent scurvy and dysentery were more heroic than the fictional characters who drink it for theatrical effect. Because their courage was real and their stakes were life and death. The resourcefulness required to turn sugar plantation waste into life-saving medicine, the social intelligence needed to use alcohol as a tool for crew management and conflict resolution, and the strategic thinking required to use rum as currency in a world without banks or reliable money systems all demonstrate levels of sophistication and adaptability that should inspire admiration rather than condescension. So the next time you raise a glass of rum, whether it's in a themed restaurant, on a tropical beach, or in your own home, remember that you're participating in a tradition that began with desperate people trying to survive in impossible conditions, using whatever resources they could find or create. The amber liquid in your glass connects you to centuries of human struggle, innovation, and the eternal human desire to find joy and meaning even in the darkest circumstances. The legacy of pirates and rum isn't just about adventure and rebellion. It says about the human capacity to transform necessity into culture, survival into legend, and harsh reality into enduring myth that continues to inspire and entertain us centuries later. In that transformation, we can see something essential about what makes us human: our ability to find meaning, create beauty, and build traditions that outlast the conditions that created them. Whether you're sipping a mojito in Miami, sharing a bottle of aged rum with friends, or simply enjoying the taste of a well-made rum cocktail, you're participating in a cultural tradition that began with people who understood that survival sometimes requires creating something new and valuable from whatever materials are available, no matter how unpromising they might seem. Their creativity, courage, and determination created more than just a beverage. They created a symbol of human resilience, ingenuity, and the refusal to surrender in the face of impossible odds that continues to resonate with us today. In every glass of rum, we taste not just alcohol and sugar, but centuries of human innovation and the enduring power of stories that remind us what we're capable of when survival demands our very best. That's the real treasure that pirates and rum have left us. Not gold or silver, but the knowledge that humans can create meaning, build cultures, and inspire others, even under the most challenging conditions imaginable. In raising that glass, we're not just toasting pirates or celebrating alcohol, we're honoring the human spirit that refuses to be defeated and always finds a way to transform survival into something approaching art, necessity into legend, and hardship into hope for future generations who will carry these stories forward into their own uncertain futures.